A long time ago when I was applying for the University of Medina, and because they want to filter out, people who have correct manhaj or people that don't have correct manhaj, little they realize that we're from Canada and we don't have any manhaj. We're just Muslim. So he said to me, the brother, and it was in Ramadan, maybe I'd say 9 years ago now, and he said, "Who are your role models? Who are the people that have had like an active effect in your Islamic life?" And then I said to him, I said, "Do you want me to tell you names of scholars, or do you want me to tell you my role models? Because they're two different things." Right? He said, "Because for me, we didn't have scholars in our city, and it was just common people that became our role models. And it wasn't the big names, and then I started, mentioning people in our masjid. And I think he was expecting me to say scholars' name, but he just thought he didn't know these scholars. Little did he realize they're just people that brought the iftar for dinner or would take us out camping and stuff. Until I mentioned Jamal Badri's name, and then he goes, "Oh no." And then I backed up, and then I said, "Okay, now I know who you're looking for." And then I started mentioning scholars that I know off the top of my head. But the reason I asked you, who makes an active difference in your life, as opposed to just mentioning people who should be role models. Because sometimes when we just write down, you can take a list of the Sahaba, all of them, and just write a whole list of people who should be role models. But are they role models? Actually, a lot of them, and it's not their fault, but it's our fault we've not taken them as role models. I remember, and actually one of the sisters, they didn't continue that part, but it was about seeing other sisters and were they affected by other role models. And if you look at the sisters, or because of the lectures for the sisters, if you see young Muslim sisters, when they choose to wear other than Islamic dress or choose to act in a certain way, what led them to that? And what it is they have a role model, whether you know that role model or not, but they're looking to someone else, someone other than the names that we've written here, and that's become a shining role model for them, even above the companions, above everybody. This non-Muslim woman that they've taken, either non-Muslim male or female, has been the top thing in their mind. And I don't know if I mentioned it here before, but we had like a lesson that we were teaching at Al-Huda school about that you'll be with whom you love. And to bring the point home to the children, we told them that like on the Day of Judgment, if you loved like Pokemon so much, or if you loved this guy, this football player, or whoever the Washington Redskin quarterback is, what's his name? I don't know. Alright, something white or something like that. That if you love them so much, or Michael Jordan or whoever, they go on the Day of Judgment, you'll be with them. And for some of the kids, this is a very exciting thing, but it strikes right in the deepest pits of their heart. They go, "Oh really? Are we really going to get to see with them on the Day of Judgment?" And then you'll be with them. And then we had to explain that, but don't you realize where they're going to be? Because they think they're just on the Day of Judgment, they're going to be running around getting autographs from people. "Oh, there's Michael Jordan in hellfire being tortured, can I have your autograph?" And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Al-akhillau yawma'idhin ba'duhum li ba'din adu illa al-muttaqin." That the friends in this dunya, that on the Day of Judgment, everybody's going to be enemies with one another. Every single friendship that you made with someone that wasn't made for the sake of Allah will end in those two being enemies. Illa al-muttaqin, except the pious people. People who only loved each other for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those are the only ones on the Day of Judgment that will maintain their friendship. And even as a brother like rightfully said, and he was like leaving to his country and leaving our community, and he said that our friendship wasn't built on some dunya reason. It was built for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because of that, we should never think that it's going to end in this dunya. And that's what the believers can hope for. You'll see how the kuffar, when one of their own dies, they'll say, "My heart will go on, and where every time you think my name, I'll be there," and so on. But indeed, that friendship will not be there on the Day of Judgment. They will be the bitterest of enemies. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even says that they will argue with each other whose fault it is that they're in hellfire. I remember at the Maya conference. Maya is it's like a conference in Arabic, when I was young, my father used to take me there. And I remember seeing these little Saudi kids running around. And at the bazaar, they were selling plastic swords. Right? They're selling plastic swords. So that was the cool toy that the kids were doing. They were buying these plastic swords. And so all the Saudi kids were buying them. And so a group of them gathered together and they go, نَحْنُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَأَنْتُمُ الْكُفَّارِ. Like we're the Muslims and you're the kuffar. And then immediately they would start beating them with the sword. Alright? That was the game. And of course, none of the children wanted to be on the kuffar side. Everybody wants to be on the Muslim side, alhamdulillah. But it just shows you that, they have a different type of upbringing than other children. Also, a personal example that I've seen with my sister's children, when they would, they had something as simple as Muhammad al-Fatih, and they're watching the cartoon, and whether people say cartoon or this, cartoons or no cartoons for children, but one thing was for sure that Muhammad al-Fatih had become a role model for them. He had. And, they'll say that whenever they're playing the game, and it's actually sad that they didn't have too many role models, but this kid will say, I'm Muhammad al-Fatih, and the other will say, no, I'm Muhammad al-Fatih. We have more role models than that. But just because it was presented to them. And it was more than just a talk, but they got to, see the life of this role model. And then once they had a goal to look at, they had something to imitate. And in fact, people in psychology and self-improvement and self-help, those things, one of the chapters that you'll see there is that they'll tell you to choose someone who's done what you have done already and make them your role model and do what they did. That don't try to reinvent the wheel, but follow what they did. And in fact, this is ittiba', this is following the Prophet ﷺ, taking him as our role model, because the goal that we want is Jannah. And that's the goal that the Prophet ﷺ went or arrived at. And so we follow in his footsteps, inshaAllah, to reach where he reached. And even these role models that they present for the sisters and for the public at large, whether they're trying to manipulate the minds of men or trying to manipulate the minds of the women, that you'll see, subhanAllah, in one high school they had a project where they demonstrated for the people. They took, a very unattractive woman, and they took a digital picture of her, and the guy was showing them with software simply as Adobe Photoshop, and take the picture of that woman, and it's so easy. You press Shift F3 or something like that. It says free transform. You take the picture and you start squeezing it in, and she miraculously becomes skinnier. Right? Pull it a little longer, she becomes taller. You get the paint bucket thing and dump a new skin color on her, change her eye color, change all of that. And the kids now watching, this unattractive person is in front of them, and on the screen they're watching as he's transforming her. And that's why you'll see, sometimes these quote-unquote role models for when you see them candid, when their picture is taken in a store somewhere, or they're just stopped, they look nothing like what they look on the magazine covers, because those magazine covers are expensive. They have to change the look. And in fact, some of them would say, in this movie, it doesn't matter who's in the movie, their makeup specialists will make anybody look good. Because that's what they do. They have professionals that make these people look inhuman. And so the sisters or the men, everybody looks to this ideal or what they think is an ideal, and then it just has a negative impact on everybody. And subhanAllah, even during the crisis that happened here, one of the most beautiful things that happened was that the news media actually shut off that stuff. They felt foolish to talk about all the tabloids. You'll see even National Enquirer having this happened at the World Trade Center or this, and everybody stopped the rubbish that was being pushed out. And if you passed by the magazines and stuff, you actually felt like sort of a relief from that stuff. And it was even said that some pop stars got married during that time, and nobody even mentioned it because they realized how foolish and insignificant those things were. But astaghfirullah, that they're trying to get back into the normal thing now, that they're trying to push these images back on us. And also there was, I remember being in an airplane flight going from a Muslim country to New York, and in the flight, as Muslims, the Transformers. You've seen the Transformers that go from this. Muslims do the transformation on the airplane.